Everybody comfortable?
Yeah.
Please don't look so terrified.
I'm hoping I don't.
No. So can I ask you all then just to tell us a little bit about yourselves? So Dave, tell me who you are and how long you've been fostering.
My name's Dave. I've been fostering now for 10 years for Conway. I look after 2 children. I've had actually in the 10 years, I've only had 4 children. So it's been quite a different, experience for me to some of the other people.
And what did you do before you became a foster carer?
Well, I've been in the Army, the Air Force. I've lived in America for some time, and then we came to North Wales, and that's where I decided, or we had a look into being a foster carer.
And you were a chef for a while?
Yes, I was. Well, 32 years actually. Yeah.
So the food's quite good in your house then?
Well, so they say.
Jenny, what about you?
I foster for Flintshire and have done for 5 years now. I, like you, did respite and emergencies to begin with, and I've had a lot of children through my door, one way and another since then. So yeah, it's keeps me occupied and interested, and they all call me Nan, so which is nice.
And what about you, Alison?
I'm Alison, and I've only been fostering for a foster care for 3 years for the Wrexham Local Authority. I've done emergency and respite mostly, so I've had, last count, somewhere between 20 and 25 placements with me to date. Loving it, thoroughly loving it, but I do work full-time. I have a separate job, and I do work full-time at the same time.
Which is quite a lot, I imagine.
Yes. Gives them a little bit of a headache sometimes when they're trying to match the right placement for me, but they've always managed it.
And what about you, Kath?
Hi, my name's Kath. I'm a foster carer for Denbighshire County Council. My husband and I have fostered for almost 30 years now. I've no idea how many children we've fostered. My theory is they're all precious little individuals, and so we don't count them. But everyone's been a joy. We mainly foster from newborn, from just days old. I think the youngest was 4 hours old. And, usually straight from hospital. We have had other children as well, but we have 2 sons that are grown up now, and they've grown up with fostering. There was a point where our youngest son thought everybody did it and didn't understand why nobody else did it. So it's just become part of their life, really. They've accepted it. They're lovely with other children. And I think it's taught them a lot in life, really. Now they're in their late 20s, and it's taught them a lot in life, really. I think a different sort of education than a lot of their friends have had, but nevertheless, valuable life lessons, really.
What do you think it's taught them?
That life isn't straightforward for everybody. Everybody doesn't have a nice, warm home. Everybody doesn't have a choice to do things in life. They've seen children arrive, or babies arrive in awful conditions, really. We've had the police knock at the door at midnight on New Year's Eve. We've been out for the day somewhere and had a phone call, can we take a placement? And they're really quite accepting that, somebody needs us, really. They don't always smile, or they didn't always smile when they were younger, but, I think it's taught them that everybody is an individual, and don't judge people. We mustn't judge, because although, their friend in school might look exactly the same as them, but actually there might be an awful lot going on for that little one, and they might need or a friend, not so much a little one, but a friend, and they might need that bit more consideration than others, I think it's also taught them that life isn't all about dressing babies in designer clothes. All their friends are having children now, and it's not all about Adidas trainers and all the rest of the designer gear, £80 for a T-shirt and all that nonsense. There's a lot more, children need a lot more in their life than all that.
Yeah. Alison, you're agreeing to everything Kath was saying.
Well, I've got 3 boys of my own, and my youngest was living at home. He was a teenager at the point, and I was just thinking, yes, it teaches them to be more compassionate about who's out there, the circumstance that people find themselves in. It gives them a bigger perspective, I think, rather than their little world. And I think they felt, my boys have felt themselves, that they've been able to contribute in some way, in their own unique way.
And what was it like as a decision for you, having children at home, perhaps, to bring other children into the house? Because people thinking about fostering might be thinking, I don't know how my children are going to cope with this. What's your experience of that?
Well, part of the actual approval process was that the social workers were interviewing my son, so she had a separate conversation, which was really good. So I said to him, be honest, say exactly what you want to say. I did breathe a sigh of relief afterwards when she said it's fine, he's okay with it all. He is still okay, he's not just saying it, but we've had many conversations and it was really good. And we set up things like safe words so that if my son struggled with a placement that came into the house, or if he needed to talk to me about something, or if he wasn't happy about what he'd seen, because some of the placements I had were similar ages to himself, then we had a little safe word, and that meant, Mum, when you've got a moment, let's have a chat. And we did that a couple of times, and then it put his mind, but he was very protective, which was quite lovely. He's like, Mum, I don't like when they talk to you like that. And it opened up conversations about, well, why do you think they did that? And we could explore it a little bit further. So
it helped your relationship with your own son as well?
Yeah, all three of my boys, one's in America, so it doesn't affect him directly, but the other one lives around the corner. Very compassionate people, and they've been involved in all the placements that I've had. They've seen them, they've popped around, we've been there. So, and I've always said to any placement who comes through the door that when you're with me, you're part of my family. Sometimes it's a case of you can choose whether to accept that or not. You can step in and out as much as you want to, but you are part of my family. So you come to birthday celebrations, Christmas celebrations, you're an extra one. And most of them have found, I've seen it's been a positive effect with that, and they've warmed to the idea. But so I'm really proud of my boys.
Mm. Yeah. Dave, what was it like for you the first time you fostered, for you and your wife?
Well, the first time, just going off what you're saying about the children, I do remember it, like I say, it was 10 years ago now, that we did have all the rules and regulations, and we sat the boys down and talked to them about it. And
how old were they at the time?
At the time they were 16, 17, but they've all left home now. There's one still lives with us now. And we went through it like through the training, you know, about safe care and everything else, and wearing things from the bathroom, you know, to the rooms and all that sort of stuff. And it's just natural now, you know, that the rules are in place. Mm-hmm. And I find that, you know, a lot easier. I don't have to worry about anything like that. Yeah.
What made you want to foster in the first place if your boys were, you know, older teenagers?
Well, they were leaving. They were going to university, and I'm a daughter. And I really, the thing with me, I actually saw a friend of mine was a foster carer, and I actually saw it working, and I thought, you know, I could be quite good at this, you know. And, you know, wanting to, as I get older, run around the kitchen all day, you know, I knew that was coming to an end. And I thought, you know, this is something I could do, and it's something I could be good at. And that's the reason. It wasn't my desire. You know, others have desires for the children, and I just thought, you know, this is a part of my life I could fit into this. And that's how it started.
Yeah. And what about you, Jenny? Because you said, your daughter said, why didn't you foster? And you said, well, I'm too old now. And your daughter said, no, you're not. So what was what made you actually decide to do it then?
I used to be a careers advisor, and I often met children who come through the care system, and you hear things in school, sort of denigrated remarks about children who are in care. And also I knew there was a huge problem when they got to be 18, because if they had to leave home, then you can't, if you've got no accommodation, you can't get the funding. It's a very complicated system. And I thought, well, if I was fostering, they could stay and they'd have a base to come back to. And I was only sort of thinking at the time about older children because of my age, a bit old for running around after 2-year-olds, I can tell you. And so I started out doing respite and emergencies like you did. And
so what age would the children be if it was respite?
Well, I sort of said 12 and above. So I got lots of teenagers. But I'd worked with teenagers all my working life anyway, so I was used to them. And You know, and some of them were great. The first one I ever had, she was brilliant. She cooked tea for me. We went out to Chester for day trips, you know, and things like that. And she was a lovely, lovely girl. I had such an easy start, you know. And then some of them aren't so easy. Some of them don't want to sort of respond to you. They're very reluctant to sort of give anything of themselves because they've been through so much loss, and they don't.
Yes.
They
don't feel
want to
safe
get,
enough
you know,
to make a relationship with them.
Yeah, I had one little boy. I think he was with me for a week before he'd take his clothes off to go to bed, and you realise after he's terrified, you know. So I'm just we'll crack on then, you know. So we're glad when he did decide to get changed, you know, and have a shower and things. But sometimes you just have to go with them, really, don't you? You know, he's a bit, when you do respite, they're all different, and you sort of. And, you know, your sort of turnover's quite quick. So you might have somebody for a fortnight and you might have somebody for a night. Yes. And which is where the dog comes in.
I was going to say, you've got a secret weapon, haven't you? Which is a dog. Yeah. So tell us about the dog.
He's a small, scruffy mongrel who loves people. And he's so pleased to see anybody who comes through the door. So this frightened child, or this really sort of worried child, comes through the door. And immediately there's somebody there who's thrilled to see them, you know. And, you know, I had one boy, I had him just for the night, but in the morning we were waiting for it to be time for him to be taken to his next placement. And he was laid out on the sofa with a dog sort of laid across his chest. And he was just stroking him. And I could see that it was calming him. And it was really just good for him. And the dog just laps it up, of course, you know. So
what's the dog called?
Keith.
So, good name for a dog.
Well, it's the name he came with. We had him from a rescue centre, so that's what he was called, so we left it at that.
So do you find the dog makes a big difference when they first arrive?
He does, yeah. I mean, because you can sit with a dog on your knee and stroke it and look down at it, and you don't have to sort of interact with the people that you don't know in a strange place.
I've got a dog, Poppy, and she's the same. We discovered that maybe she should have been a therapy dog because, and I never see Poppy. When I've got a placement, she immediately gravitates to them and she jumps on the sofa next to them. She's right next to them, stroking them. I'm like, how did you do that? And she's just incredible. It also opens up another activity because I'll often say to them, well, let's go for a walk, shall we? Let's take Poppy for a walk. She needs to go for a walk. Because predominantly my fostering has been during lockdown, so we couldn't do much more at that time. So we put her on the lead and walking, and then they're holding the lead, they're walking Poppy and they're smiling. And I'm sure you're all the same, you get these side-by-side conversations. And they're deep because they're not looking at you, and then we come back, and then the next thing you know, the dog's curled up with them again. And if I ever want to find Poppy, I just look for where the foster placement is and where the young person is, and that's usually where she is. Yeah. And she looks at me when they've gone. It's quite funny in some respects, and she sits there at the door and she whimpers when they've gone, and I'm like, it's okay, somebody else will come soon, I'm sure. And she comes through begrudgingly looking at the door like this, but...
It opens up a different conversation, really, doesn't it? If a little one's troubled by something, a young person's troubled by something, they won't necessarily sit and have a coffee with you and say, I'm really worried or I'm frightened or anything like that. But if you're walking, as you say, side by side or in a car even, if you're in the front and the little one's in the back, it can open up a conversation because they're not looking directly and sincere at you. They don't feel that eye-level connection. So they might actually say, I'm really worried about something, or I don't know what to do about something, or what's going to happen about this. And they'll say it freer as they walk along and more relaxed because they're sort of concentrating on either the journey they're on or walking the dog or, you know, there's something else to distract them, but they'll open their heart up. And I think that's a big help with younger children, really.
Do you find sometimes the dog knows what to do when you don't?
Yes.
I once had a little boy who was in floods of tears. He was inconsolable. He had good reason for it. And he was kneeling on the floor, sitting up, crying. And the dog put his paws on his shoulders. and started licking his face. And as fast as he cried, the dog licked the tears. Then he went round and licked all under his chin. And in the end, this little boy couldn't stop smiling because it was really funny. He was still crying, but it was there, slurp, slurp, slurp. You know, it was just... And nobody else could have done that. We couldn't stop him crying, but the dog did. You know, he just knew. So...